Raider Nation, Las Vegas is 2-0 and off to a very strong start. Welcome into the Silver and Black Show presented by Cox. I'm Erin Coscarelli alongside my all-pro tackle and Lincoln Kennedy. Lincoln, tough road environment. No Josh Jacobs, a short week. There's a lot to discuss in this game. But what was your biggest takeaway from the Steelers game?
Oh, it was certainly pretty to walk away from Steelers Stadium and those terrible towels, and the fans were crying into those terrible towels. It was a wonderful feeling. But the biggest takeaway is that we've seen the defense 2 weeks in a row show up and really influence the game, the outcome of the game. It was very impressive, you see.
Yeah, two different types of quarterbacks. And I remember last week, same time, same place, you telling me that Big Ben was an even scarier potential opponent, and he looked out of sync the entire game. We're going to talk all about the defense later in the show. But now that I have you here, you know I got to ask you, what'd you think of the O-line? How did they perform?
You know, for being pieced together, they did a pretty good job. You know, the continuity in the running game is going to come. The timing of it is going to come eventually. But right now, they've been able to keep Derek Carr upright. And for what it's worth, in the Steeler game, the Raiders had to use the pass as the run because they didn't have a running game. So it was really effective, and I was pleased with the way that John Simpson and Jermaine Luminor played.
And this is without a 100-yard rusher. Donald Penn said, when Josh Jacobs is ready and he's going to be available, this team's going to be even scarier, which is actually very scary for opposing defenses. And we'll find out, of course, the character of the team. Now they face a 10-team win from last season, served us up a heartbreaking loss with playoff implications last season. They are playing the Miami Dolphins, a scary defense. Won't have Tua. We'll talk about that momentarily. But what do they have to do to take care of business against Miami?
Well, the defense has to continue doing what it's been doing the first two games, and that's apply pressure on the quarterback. Miami has had some issues with their offensive line. As you mentioned, their defense is still good. But the one thing that stood out about last year's game when they played the Dolphins here at Allegiant Stadium was the amount of field goals the Raiders had to kick and not score touchdowns. They got in the red zone, but couldn't put it in touchdowns. I think it was 5 field goals, if I'm not mistaken. You don't want to have that again. You want to put the pressure on the opposing offense, and so far for the first two games, our offense has done that.
It certainly has. And now they won't have to face Tua, who is officially out with fractured ribs, which means Jacoby Brissett will be in as the passer. What are the Raiders defense up against when it comes to Mr. Brissett? You
know, there was a lot of praise when Jacoby Brissett first started playing with New England, and then he went to Indianapolis, and they thought he was going to be the starter. He's shown potential at times, but again, I think with that offensive line that they've had to put together, and they've really had trouble protecting the passer, that I think that the Raiders defense can apply pressure, and we've seen them do it for the last couple of games. But Jacoby Brissett does have some experience, so he's not totally brand new at it, but I think it's something that they could take advantage of.
Sure. He gets first-team reps this week. Decent amount of starts, 30 with Indy, 2 as a rookie in 2016 when he was in New England. You take a look at his numbers right there. Let's hear from Mr. Jacoby on making his first start for the Dolphins.
Really just being myself and the guy that that has gotten me to this point. And I don't think it changes because of, your role changes because I think that's fake. And I try not to do that. I know I'm not going to do that. And literally just go out there and be myself, and I think that'll suit me well. They'll feel the authenticity of that. I said that right? Yeah. All right, good. So that from me, they'll feel my confidence, and then we'll go from there.
So what is on the table for Gus Bradley when you have a guy like Jacoby Brissett? Because he does still have a decent amount of weapons on that team. Yeah,
it's the fact that the team has been able to generate pressure with its front four and play their compound coverages on the back end. That has been a strength of this defense. Right now going into this game, you see the Raiders only blitzed 3 times this year, and they still have one of the top performing pressure packages, getting pressure according to Pro Football Focus. So I think it's just that continual motion, that continual, aggressiveness that we've seen out of Max Crosby and company with that defensive line applying pressure on the opposing quarterback.
And we'll see, hopefully they continue that momentum and finish 3-0 in week 3. Well, coming up on the show, we've got, of course, a jam-packed one for you today. Lincoln Kennedy breaking down Solomon Thomas, Coach Gruden joining JT, and the challenges against the defense. We'll talk more after the break.
The Silver and Black Show is brought to you by Cox, proud partner of the Las Vegas Raiders, and by Allegiant, the official airline of the Las Vegas Raiders. Low fares, nonstop flights. Book now, only at Allegiant.com.
You know, you go back to Sunday, and it's the first multi-sack game of your career, which I'm sure was exciting in its own right. But, you know, going back to that game, like, what was working for you? What was kind of how did you kind of get from A to Z there against Big Ben?
Definitely, you know, for me, it was just staying present in the moment and, you know, just, knowing my call, knowing my assignment and getting off and, you know, playing with my guys. You know, we had a great time together, having fun. But, you know, just honing in on my details, you know, film study throughout the week, you know, seeing certain things and just playing fast and keep going, you know, just being relentless in our rushes. And, you know, we did a great job rushing together. You know, Coach Marinelli has a saying, 4 = 1. And, you know, we were able to execute that on the field and, you know, it showed. So it was definitely a fun game to play in.
It was a fun game to watch, that's for sure. The defensive line kept Big Ben out of sync for pretty much most of the game. Never-ending search for the Raiders to find that interior pass rush. Maybe they found him in Solomon Thomas. What did you see from the D tackle on Sunday?
Well, you know, usually, AEC, we pay so much attention to the defensive ends. We talk about Max Crosby, Yannick Ngakoue, and Carl Nassib. Rightfully so, they were good players. But the interior presence and the interior push is key in today's defense because you play against so many teams that line up in shotgun and when quarterbacks are pushing up the field. But one of the things that Solomon Thomas, actually a couple of things that stood out when he said in that interview was awareness and playing fast. Those are intangibles you can't always coach. You just have to have them instilled in you. And remember, this is a former first-round pick, number 3 overall by the 49ers. So I took a look at a couple plays in this Pittsburgh game, EC. We're going to look at them right now. We're going to spot shadow Solomon Thomas. Now, the first thing I want you to pay attention to is this is a run play. This is a gun run. And the tackle is going to try to come down on Solomon Thomas, and you'll see the awareness as well as the takeoff. Watch him get upfield. Roll the film. Now, you spot shadow him right there, number 92. Now, watch as the tackle comes down. They're trying to pull some linemen around. Look at the awareness and the penetration he gets to disrupt this play. Right now, he's in Najee Harris' face. Now, he doesn't make the tackle, but look how many white jerseys show up. KJ Wright, Perryman, and crew. Now, that's great awareness, and that's playing fast. So you attribute that's almost a tackle for loss for Solomon Thomas. Now we watch it from a different angle. See, the tackle takes a poor angle and coming down and trying to disrupt him, but he gets in the backfield so quick, he disrupts Najee Harris' course, and the rest of the defense is able to show up. So that's really big time. Now we're going to look at a couple of pass plays. This next play coming up, I want you to pay particular attention to Solomon Thomas because this is what I consider a coverage sack. The coverage is so good down the field that Big Ben has to pull this ball down. And watch as Solomon retraces. He gets past the guard, he retraces, ankle tackle, sack. And that's big time because the coverage, again, was so good downfield. And this is the relentless, playing and staying focused, playing fast, and just retracing the steps, and he's able to get that sack, a big-time sack for the defense. Great coverage again down the field. We look at the next play. They're trying to decide, but Hankins and then we're trying to decide up which side has the strength of the formation. But he's going to rush this quarterback, and look at the fact that he stays with it. Almost double team, they slide, he stays with it, and see that pressure that came from the outside forced Ben to step up in the pocket, and that's how he was able to come away from the sack. So great coverage down the field, great teamwork. Watch it again from the different angle. Now watch how long Ben has to hold on to the ball. When you start patting the ball like this means the coverage is doing well downfield, and that's why the defense is working together, is able to get that other second sack for Solomon Thomas.
I love watching film with you. And Gus Bradley also liking production from Solly because he had an uptick of production. Week 1 to week 2, he went from 22 to 45% involved in the game and 2 sacks.
Yes.
Like we saw right there. And you had mentioned getting that interior pass rush benefits the guys on the edge. Let's show you what it looks like according to Pro Football Focus in terms of total pressure. And how about number 98, Max Crosby, reaping the rewards of that?
Well, he's been playing these last couple games with an unbelievable amount of energy. The whole defense has, really. You can't just stand out. Obviously, you have Max to stand out right there, but the whole defensive front has shown me something I had not seen present in this team for years, and that's a passion and energy to get to the quarterback right now.
And only 3 blitz.
Yeah, only 3 blitzes. That's big.
Pretty surprising.
Yeah.
And of course, what we talked about last week when I had asked you what was the more difficult quarterback to take down, the dual threat in Lamar Jackson or the pocket passer that's hard to take down just in and of himself in Big Ben. You were a little bit more nervous about Big Ben. But the fact that you can handle both types of quarterbacks says what to you?
Well, it shows great containment against Lamar Jackson because there weren't a whole lot of running lanes for him to go in. He did use his legs in that game. But the fact that the coverage was so effective downfield made Big Ben what we call hitch the ball, where he's tapping it, he's not really throwing. And you see he almost came up the interception. That's relentless pressure by those front 4. And because you don't have to blitz, you're playing that much better. You're playing that much more effective because now if you have a potentially dangerous receiver on the other side, you can have combo coverages. There's things that you can do. By only rushing 4, you can drop 7 back in coverage.
Yeah, it just seems like the defense is clicking on all cylinders.
Right now, yes.
We're going to look to do that against Miami. Speaking of which, coming up, Coach Gruden joining us in studio to tell us why this secondary group for the Dolphins may be the best in the league and how the Raiders are planning to attack them. For the second straight season, the Raiders have gotten off to a 2-0 start, an indication of the emphasis placed on preparation that head coach John Gruden displays each offseason. The road to 3-0, though, does not get any easier as a familiar foe who broke Raider Nation's heart last season in Allegiant Stadium returns for a second helping. The Dolphins look to end the Raiders' win streak in Las Vegas, and head coach John Gruden knows his team must display that same preparation if they wish to prevent that.
Okay, Coach, great win in Pittsburgh. I want to talk about the resiliency, the early start, the travel, what we talked about last week, and a physical game where you came out against a really tough team.
We had success on the road last year, and I think a lot of it has to do with our schedule here. We're a early morning operation to beat the heat. So when we go on the road and play these 10 a.m. West Coast body clock games, it's not a shock to your system. Our guys are up drinking coffee. They're ready to go around 8 o'clock. I do think our schedule change helps us, and we also have a pretty good football team that understands that we need to go play good, especially when we go on the road.
And that was the buy-in in the offseason, too, wasn't it? A part of it, you talked about the attendance, everybody showing up, staying late, Derek working out in the park, everybody being on time, being reliable. I saw that in the fourth quarter. That game got physical, and the health of your team and the strength of your team really closed that game out.
No doubt, and we had some newcomers show up. Solomon Thomas made his presence felt, 2 sacks. Peyton Barber stepped in, had a couple great runs at the end of the ball game to help us run out the clock. Jermaine Illuminor stepping in at right guard. Brandon Parker's playing right tackle. So the depth on the team and just the team concept is helping us right now.
The number 1 total offense, the number 1 passing offense, but I know you want to get this running game going. With the challenges of getting Josh healthy, the offensive line injuries, how big of a challenge is that going up against Miami?
It's a big challenge because they don't want you to run the ball. These first 3 opponents, when you look at the film, they load the box. There's going to be an extra defender in there. The Dolphins have X Howard and they have Byron Jones, $20 million corners. And they're not afraid to put them on an island so they can load the box and stop the run. They are very stingy, an excellent defensive team. They lost their way a little bit last week on offense, but they're talented as any team we've seen this year. It's going to be a fist fight. It's going to be a tough one.
Let's stay with those corners. What are they great at? Bump and run? Are they physical? They catch up on a ball, and they're ball hawks. They love to jump routes.
Well, Howard had 10 picks last year, and when you play press coverage and can play the ball from the blind spot, you're covering your guy, now the ball's in the air, you find it and find a way to intercept. This guy's special, and he's big. He's very strong. He's an old-school Raider corner. He'd make Willie Brown, he'd make Lester Hayes excited. That's how they played. And Byron Jones, a pure technician. He's played corner, safety, nickel. He's done it all with the Cowboys. He was the prize free agent acquisition of the league 2 years ago. They're very confident, very poised, and they're very talented playing press man-to-man coverage.
Miami had an uncharacteristic loss, a bad loss against Buffalo, but I remind everyone how they looked in Foxborough against Belichick in New England and what they did last year. So this is a team that's coming in hungry. They're upset. I'm sure Coach Flores is going to have them ready to go. This is a big moment for them to bounce back after a really tough loss at home.
No, they will bounce back. We know they're going to bounce back and play a terrific game. And we understand the mindset that they're under. That's the mindset that every team in this league is. It's pro football. You're going to have bumps in the road. They hit a bump last week. They lost their quarterback. They missed a run fit early. They gave up a 60-yard touchdown. Things didn't go right for them. But I'm sure Coach Flores is going to have them ready to play. They got too many good players and too many good coaches.
Good luck against the Dolphins, Coach.
All right, thank you.
The Silver and Black Show has been brought to you by 1800 Tequila. the best taste in tequila and official partner of the Raiders. And by Chevron. No gasoline gives you better mileage than Chevron with Techron. Chevron, together ahead.
Continuing with our Sunday matchup against the Miami Dolphins, September 26th, all Raiders home game attendees aged 12 and over must provide proof of vaccination. The goal to create a consistent and safe atmosphere where fans can enjoy the game day experience that they love and remember. Get started by downloading the Clear app. It's free. It takes just 5 minutes. All you need is your ID and your CDC vaccination card to complete the Clear Health Pass. Visit Raiders.com/Clear. More information and, of course, a how-to video and a link to download the Clear app. All right, folks, welcome back to the Silver and Black Show. Let's talk Raiders offense, shall we? A different Derek Carr we're seeing potentially from the first 3 years ago to this year, potentially with John Gruden. Are you seeing a different Derek Carr?
Different. Interesting that you use the choice of words. Look, for what it's worth, Derek Carr is a 4,000-yard quarterback of a year ago. He's the same person that he's been. In my opinion, he's one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the National Football League. And now what you're seeing him doing is because the running game has been staggered, he's using the short passing game like extensive runs. And that gets you sideline to sideline. That gets defenses moving. So I think we're seeing the same Derek Carr we've had. He just has more targets now to go to. You think about the receivers. You see how influential Edwards was in the last game, as well as Ruggs. You've seen, of course, he started out going to Waller in game one, but look, to me, he's the same guy.
Well, listen, let me explain myself.
Okay.
The reason why I said different was because on that graphic, under yards, he's number one. 817 passing yards is first among all NFL quarterbacks. And perhaps the reason why I use the word different is because maybe he doesn't feel the need to overcompensate for the lack of a defense. The defense showing up is maybe giving Derek Carr comfort in knowing just play what he plays.
I will agree with you there.
Okay.
I will agree with
you
you there. And that's also influencing the way Gruden's calling plays because he trusts Derek. You know, look, we just showed the highlight of that long pass to Zay Jones and that one right there to Henry Ruggs. Derek reads coverages, and when he sees that he doesn't have a safety in the hole like he did against Zay Jones, and he knows a full blitz is coming at him, he knows he's got speed at receivers. So that's best utilizing his targets. He's playing smarter. He's playing more consistent. And again, his accuracy is pinpoint. Using those short passes in Pittsburgh like they did because they don't have a running game to get first downs, to move the ball down the field. I think it's really good for this offense right now.
Right, and you mentioned the weapons. 8 different receivers caught a ball on Sunday.
That's important.
Taking the pressure off of also Darren Waller,
That's right.
who a lot of people criticized maybe he was forcing the ball to him in the first half of
It looked
week
that way
one.
in the first game, yeah.
And so let me ask you your perspective on, you just mentioned Henry Ruggs. What about Bryan Edwards? And you heard Coach Gruden talk about that stingy defense and those corners. When it comes to the matchup, how confident do you feel? Have you seen enough out of Ruggs and Edwards to feel like they are going up against and will win the battle against Xavier Howard and Byron Jones?
They're going up against 2 of the better cover corners in the league, and they're going to be physical, much like the first 2 defenses that they faced, the Steelers and the Ravens. So it's great experience. But one thing you can also take a little bit of solace in, as their progression and their chemistry working with Derek Carr has gotten progressively better every game. It's just a movement forward. And the great thing about it is when you have those 2 receivers, if they're locked down corners on receivers, you have other guys to go to. You have Renfro, you have Waller. You saw last week again in Pittsburgh.
Foster.
Yeah, exactly, how they use Foster Moreau and Derek Carrier. So, you know, there are guys that he's going to, he's spreading the ball around, and that's a good sign because it's hard for defenses to key on the one particular person.
And we probably don't have enough time, but obviously our run game has struggled. We have the second least rushing yards among the NFL right now.
To that point, I tell people to just feel you got to just relax about the run game. Run game with an offensive line is chemistry, it's timing, and because we had to mismatch and put so many pieces together late, it's not overnight where you're going to get that developing run. I saw last week in the Pittsburgh game they blocked one power really well, the other ones they struggled. It's going to take time. You get Illuminor in there, and of course the tackles. You know, the tackles have been shuffling around as well. So John Simpson and Andre Ray James on the interior, they're going to take time to mesh and get that run game going.
Keep that momentum going. Let's not forget the Chiefs lost to the Ravens last week. So certainly the Raiders looking to go 3-0 this week against the Miami Dolphins. For Lincoln Kennedy, I'm Erin Coscarelli. We'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.